Hey everybody, Eric here from Tea and Tobacco, and today I'm going to show you how to smoke a cigar. Now, smoking cigars can be a relaxing and enjoyable hobby, and there's really no reason it shouldn't be. So today I'm just going to go through my personal steps of how I smoke cigars. These are, of course, my opinion. You are free to smoke your cigars however you want. That is fine. I make no qualms saying that this is the right way to do it. This is just how I do it and how I find the most enjoyability out of my cigars. So, quickly, I am talking about handmade cigars, not the things that you get at the grocery store, just to be clear. Now, people may be asking, what's the point of smoking a cigar? Now, it's true for those who have heard, you do not inhale cigars. Really, the point is just to get the flavor of the smoke. And you would be surprised of how many different types of flavors that you can get out of tobacco leaves. There's a whole bunch of different types of variety of tobacco, and depending on where it's grown, how it's grown, and then how it's aged or fermented after it's picked, can play a huge part on the flavors that you can get. You can get sweetness, you can get cocoa, you can get milky cream, you can get notes of wood like oak or cedar, you can get spices like pepper or licorice type flavors. There are all types of flavors that you can get out of tobacco leaves. So there's a whole wide range of factors that come into play. So just about the construction of a cigar. Inside, there are leaves that run the whole length of the cigar. Those are called long filler cigars when they're made like this. Pretty much all premium cigars are going to be made with long filler. They run the whole length, like I said. Then around that is a leaf that spirals around to hold it all together. That is called the binder. Then the whole thing is put into a press for a couple hours, which gives it this nice round shape. And then afterwards, they put on the wrapper at the end, which is the part that you see on the outside. Now, all three of those play a factor on how the cigar tastes. Another thing that plays a factor is the thickness of it, which is called a ring gauge, which is the diameter of the cigar. It's measured in 64ths of an inch if you care. So if you have a 64 ring gauge cigar, it would be an inch in diameter. You don't normally see them that big. There are some that big, but you usually don't see them. Most cigars you're going to see, I would say, are most likely between 44 and 54 ring gauges. There are plenty of cigars that fall outside of that range. That's just an average of probably what you're going to see for premium cigars. Now, as you can see right here, the top is actually closed and the bottom, which is called the foot, is open. So obviously you cannot smoke it this way because you can't draw the air through. So the first thing you have to do is cut the cap off of the cigar. All right, so when looking at the top of the cigar, you'll see this seam that runs all the way around the cigar. That is called the cap. In this case, this cigar is double capped. If you look below it, there is a second seam that runs all the way around. So basically what they do is they take a piece of tobacco and they run it all the way around the top. And then after that, they put a second piece of tobacco, which is actually just a cut out round piece of tobacco, and that's called the cap. So when you're cutting a cigar, you want to take this top one off, but you want to leave as much of the second one behind as possible because that's going to hold the cigar together and keep it from unraveling on you. So here I have a pretty typical cigar cutter. It's called a guillotine cutter. It has a hole in the middle and then two blades that come together. So what you want to do is you want to take your cigar and you want to put it in the cutter, and then right here, I just want to take just that part off that I was talking about called the cap. So just take it in one swift cut, and there you go. All right, so I've just cut my cigar. There may be some little bits at the top. You can just brush those off. And now you're ready to light your cigar. My personal preference is to use a torch lighter. So what you're going to want to do is with the torch, you're going to want to keep the flame as far away as possible and let the tobacco self-combust from the heat. If you put the flame right up against the tobacco, it scorches the tobacco and gives it a very burnt flavor. So you want to avoid that as much as possible. Also, you don't want to hold it directly below the cigar because little bits could come off and they could clog the jets of the torch, which you don't want to do. So here we go. All right, so I'm holding it pretty far away. As you can see, it's starting to catch. You can see the red. And just roll it around so you can get a nice even burn. And this may take a few seconds. It's not a quick thing. You just want to get it lit basically as slowly as possible so you don't get that burnt, scorched flavor. So you can give it a draw and see how it looks. And you can blow on the end. So it looks like I still have a little bit more that isn't lit. So I will go back with the torch lighter a little bit more. So now my cigar is evenly lit. All right, so now that you have your cigar lit, you can start smoking. So the action of smoking is really just drawing smoke into your mouth, and then you can push it out, you can blow it out, however you want. It's basically the same type of thing that you would be doing if you're drinking with a straw. So basically, with your tongue, you make space in your mouth, which then draws the smoke through the cigar. You want to take as slow as possible. The goal is to keep the cigar burning as cool as possible. So that's why you want to take a nice slow draw. If you draw too quickly, you'll end up heating this and then you'll end up scorching the tobacco in here, just like you would if you touched the lighter directly to it, and it will taste burnt. And that's something you probably don't want. So how you exhale is completely up to you. You can just let it flow out. You can push it out with your tongue, or you can push it out with your lungs. There's also something that people do called retrohaling, which is sending some smoke through your sinuses, which helps you taste. It may change the taste a little bit. So this is what it looks like. It's kind of, if you were holding your breath and you just collapsed your mouth, it should come out your nose. Personally, I don't do it very often because I don't like the feeling of it. One thing that you can do is when you're smoking, if you find you're not particularly fond of the flavors, one thing I like to do is if you loosen your lips a little bit and let in some fresh air while you're drawing on the cigar, that will cool the smoke down, and sometimes the flavor will change for you. The smoke will be thinner, but you may get more enjoyable flavors out of it. A piece of tobacco, which happens sometimes. Not a big deal. All right, so now you can go on smoking your cigar. How you want to hold your cigar, it's completely up to you. This is how I hold it. Sometimes I'll hold it like this. One thing I don't recommend is holding it like a cigarette because it's heavy, and you can see it's kind of falling down. And you don't want to have the ash fall off in your lap, so that's not very fun. So make sure, however you hold it, just make sure you have a nice good grip on it and it's not going to go anywhere on you. So you can hold it like this, you can hold it like this, you can hold it like this, that some people say is the proper way to do it. Really, you can just hold it however feels comfortable. It's your cigar. You can smoke it however you want. Some people ask about the band. Should I leave the band on or take it off? Obviously, as you're smoking, eventually you may get to the band. At that point, you're going to have to take it off. You can take it off whenever you want. Usually, I leave it on for a little bit, so my holding the cigar will actually warm up the adhesive, or even smoking the cigar, if it gets close enough, will warm up the adhesive. Sometimes the adhesive is actually stuck to the wrapper, so at that point, you may want to take it off at the very last moment before you start smoke. Don't smoke the band. Don't do that. So you might want to take it off at that point. So right now I'm just going to check. The glue is nice and loose on this one, so I'm just going to take it off right now. And there you go. So I'm sort of glad this happened to me while I was making this video. While I was smoking, the wrapper started coming loose. So if you look at that right here, you can see this little piece of tobacco sticking off. One thing you can do, I just lick my finger and kind of smooth it back down. Basically how cigars are held together is with pectin, or some use gum arabic. It's some usually plant-derived glue that actually holds it down. So if you just wet it, it may cause the adhesive that they used to rehydrate and re-stick again. This will happen from time to time. Not a big deal. But that's one way you can fix it. If the wrapper starts coming off near the top, just wet your finger and you can smooth it down. All right, so after you've been smoking for a while, you're going to want to figure out what you're going to be doing with the ash. Now, you want to leave the ash on as long as possible because it helps the cigar burn cooler, but you obviously don't want it falling off on your lap. So you kind of got to make a judgment at some point. Should I get rid of the ash? Now, you don't want to flick it like a cigarette because that could send it going flying in a direction you don't want. You also don't want to do it high above an ashtray because when it hits the ashtray, it could kind of, poof out and go all over the place, and you don't want that. So what you're going to want to do to get rid of the ash, all you have to do is touch it to the bottom of your ashtray, and it should just break right off. Now that you have the ash taken care of, you can go on smoking like you were. If your cigar goes out because you set it down too long, just knock off the ash like I just did, and then go through the lighting procedure again. That's all it takes. Now, when do you end your cigar? Really? End it whenever you want. If it's no longer enjoyable for you, there's no reason to keep on going. There may be some cigars where you stop at the halfway point. There may be some where you're trying to get every last bit of smoke out as possible and you are burning your fingers at the end. I've had both. So choose when you want to end. End on your terms. It's your smoke. You can do whatever you want with it. If you're inside, or especially if you're at a cigar lounge, do not stamp out the cigar in the ashtray. Doing so releases a lot of stinky smoke that it definitely smells worse than what you're smoking, and you just don't want to do that. All you have to do is lay it in the ashtray and let it go out on its own. If you're at home, I would suggest as soon as it is out and you can get out of your house, go for it, because a smoked cigar laying around does not smell very good. Just forewarning you now. So that's it. I hope this video was informative to you. If you have any questions, feel free to post them below and I will get to them as quickly as I can. Please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you next time on Tea and Tobacco. I just wanted to kind of announce that I'm basically going to do a launch, if you will, and do videos on a regular cadence. So starting April 2nd, I'm going to start doing a cigar video on Saturday, tea on Tuesday, and then pipe tobacco on Thursdays. So it's going to be cigar Saturdays, tea Tuesdays, and tobacco Thursdays. Then I'm going to do that every other week for the foreseeable future.